Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Pepper F1.
And my name is Niran, and welcome to the AOR Talkshow.
Here we go!
Right then, yes, so hello and welcome everyone to episode number 4 of the AOR Talkshow with myself and Pepper F1. And today we are going to be talking mainly about PlayStation. Obviously last time we did the season review of the Xbox F1 series, F1 season, the Xbox season, that's what I'm going for, Xbox season, and this time we're going to be focusing on PlayStation, obviously, because the Xbox side has finished. And what happened this week is that we had the second round of the season in Brazil. Obviously, if you missed the first AOR talk show, I do believe it was, that we talked about this, you won't know that the calendar has been randomised for this series, so we won't. That's why we didn't go to Malaysia for the second round. And that is also why we'll be going to Austin for the third round, but we'll get onto that a little bit later on. The second round of the season, though, happened in Brazil, and obviously after a few disconnections that sort of ruined the race in Australia for round number 1, we were sort of hoping that we'd get a nice, clean, even race with lots of the drivers battling and no internet worries. That didn't quite happen, but it was still a very good race. And qualifying was interesting as well. Do you know what the results were, don't you, Pepper?
Yes, it was a very close qualifying, and it wasn't exactly what we'd expect, though. Especially, Callum got pole position with a 109.0, but ahead of Mazes and Pepper. So Ferrari again showing good pace this time on qualifying, followed by Hammer Time, Prost, Brown, and once again Dan in 7th and Professional in 11th. So the Red Bull team needs to improve on qualifying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you do.
It's the simple truth.
Yeah, Shane qualified low in 8th, but he did qualify on primes, so he still said that it hadn't been a good lap, but not too bad. Philip 9th and Sevalista, who failed to join us in Australia, got his first qualifying of the season in 10th place, which wasn't too bad. But I think it's fantastic to see that the first 7 were separated by less than 4 tenths.
Yeah, that is mad. That's actually ridiculously close. It just shows how competitive the championship is going to be throughout the whole season, or hopefully anyway, certainly in Brazil. And I suppose the race sort of backed that up, because there was a lot of good racing. I'm guessing, if for those who haven't seen the race, you don't want to know spoilers, but maybe it'll be in the description or something along the lines of, but make sure you click off like now, otherwise you're going to find out what happened. But anyway, so Callum started on pole, and it was a fairly clean start up until, lap 2. There was good battling between the majority of the field, but Mazias was second, Pepper was third, and that was until the start of lap 2. Mazias made a mistake, allowed a few drivers through, and in the middle of lap 2, our hopes and glory, that's not what I was going to say, our hopes were dashed in terms of stable connection, as Pepper disconnected from 2nd or 3rd in the Ferrari, which is just massively disappointing. Because you want all the drivers to be able to compete fairly, and that wasn't really the case straight from the get-go.
Yeah, we missed the opportunity of seeing a native speaker take the podium in Brazil. So we'll have to wait for next season for another attempt. But I think very, very disappointing for Ferrari in terms of the team, because they were running very well in 2nd and 4th at the time, and both of them were showing strong pace, maybe not as much as Callum on the Williams, but it was looking good. But obviously Pepper couldn't prove if he was going to fight for it or not, because connection happened, and
didn't get a chance to show that wonderful pace in qualifying that both the Ferraris had.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. And as you said, I suppose that the fact last time we said that there was no native speaker, no Brazilian or Portuguese driver on the podium. Brazil, and genuinely I thought that was going to change, hence my prediction last time where I predicted Pepper to come third. That could have happened had disconnection not just slapped everyone in the face, but there we go. That's the shame. So no points, unfortunately, for Pepper in the race. Of course, he won in Australia, but you alluded to Callum's pace in the Williams a little bit, well, like a moment ago, and his pace was ridiculous, and he stretched away and had no real issues whatsoever throughout the race. I don't think he was challenged at all. Basically, from lap 2 onwards, as soon as Pepper disconnected, as soon as Maz Ice made that mistake, really, Callum had a pretty large lead, a good 2 seconds after like 2 laps, and it just continued to extend the whole way through. There were good battles though throughout the rest of the field, despite Callum stretching away at the front. Mazias, Prost, Dan, Hammer Time, Shane all battling. Shane, of course, King Rockhammer, as you said earlier. Pepper started on the prime tyres, so went for a bit of an alternate strategy. Then there was several incidents, especially between Mazias and Hammer Time, which gifted at the time Williams a 1-2 in the shape of Callum and then Shane, who of course started on the primes. There were some good battles though across the race. I don't know if I'm guessing you've had a chance to watch the whole race back, but there was some good, clean, mostly battles throughout the field, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was interesting to see Mazais and Hammer Time colliding more than once.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Obviously, Mazais got a penalty in one of the cases.
Which hurt him a lot at the end.
Yeah, and it was still a very close finish in that aspect, because Mazais beat his Hammer Time on the line by 1,000.
So I think has that ever happened? Has that ever happened in league racing? It's a shame that it didn't count in the end, because Mazais had the 10-second penalty. But has that ever happened where someone's won by 1,000th of a second?
I'm not sure, but I doubt it.
I was guessing you wouldn't actually know the answer to that. If you'd have known the answer, I'd have been like, wow, that's impressive. But
I think it's very hard for that to have happened.
Yeah.
But as you said, Williams were on a 1-2 position at some point, but obviously with Shane pitting later on the race to the prime tyres, Dan obviously managed to jump him, and Brown also got, not Brown, Hammer Time. Not Hammer Time. Who was
Prost.
it? Prost. Exactly.
Prost. Yeah, good old Prost. And it was a good battle as well for second place between Dan and Prost in the second stint, in the last stint even. But then with 3 laps to go, we got like flipping slapped in the face again, because Prost disconnected after 33 laps of just battling, and had a great solid race in the Sauber. It wasn't as solid a race for his teammate Hammer Time, who yet again, not necessarily is the cause of issues and accidents, but just kept getting involved in accidents again this time. It's exactly what happened in Australia, and that's what, he got pole in Australia, but was nowhere by the end. And the same really happened here as well. But yeah, that gifted Dan second place, and that's where he finished, and it was a pretty quiet end to the race. Or so you would have thought, with like 2 laps to go, and then suddenly, as we said earlier, Mazias managed to pip Hammer Time to the line by 1,000th of a second, only for him to then realise he had a 10-second penalty, and that dropped him behind the Sauber driver anyway. And there was also, I think it was Professional and Philip Daring across the line for like 9th. They were split by about 100th of a second, but Professional, who managed to pip Daring to the line, got a penalty as well. So literally exactly the same that happened between Mazias and Hammer Time happened there as well. So the penalties actually ruining the closeness of those battles in the end, but it was still quite exciting to watch.
Yeah, indeed. And some may claim that Shane could have had challenged Callum for the win if it wasn't for his incident with Dan, but as it's been discussed by the stewards on Dan's screen, it was clearly just like, sorry, my voice just died there, but yeah, it was a like, can I say lag? No?
I'll go in and I'll say lag. I'll say you say it was a, and then I'll go lag. No way.
But yeah, lag incident because Dan didn't do anything on his screen. So maybe another lost opportunity for the Williams driver, but he ended up getting second place on the standings still. So it's not too much to worry about.
Yeah.
Obviously, it can make the difference at the end of it, but let's hope he doesn't lose anything because of this incident, because none of them really had fault about this. So, also a very consistent race from Brown, I would say, getting fourth place for Mercedes, and Sevalist with a good debut, finishing seventh place. Not too bad for the Lotus driver.
3 places gained. Started 10th, came 7th, so you can't really argue with that, as I'm sure he'll be very happy with that. Decent haul of points in his first race. But yeah, Brown, as you said, I think he managed to stay out of trouble on the most part, and just sort of skip through when everyone else was having spins and incidents, and managed to claim 4th. And then it was hammer time. Mazius, I can't say his name. I'm just going to say Mazius because that's what I've got written down. But yeah, he obviously could have come 5th had it not been for the penalty. And Sebalista, daring professional, and I can't even remember who came 10th, to be honest with you. But yes, still, it was a very interesting race. And as you said, it's left Shane second in the championship, but it's actually left the top of the championship pretty damn close. The top 4 being spread by 8 points, I think, because obviously Pepper won in Australia, but then didn't finish here. Callum had the complete opposite, didn't finish the first race, but then won in Brazil. And then obviously Dan and Shane sort of finished in between in both races, so it's meant that it's quite close. If Prost hadn't disconnected as well in Brazil, then he would have been right up there as well, and you would have had about 5 people spread or covered by about sort of 8 to 10 points. But unfortunately, the game was not going to allow that. But it's still pretty close. There's still a long way to go. Obviously, we're only 2 races in, but it does look as if it's going to be pretty competitive. As my voice dies, a pretty competitive championship.
Yeah, I do agree with that statement. And we cannot forget that Brown had been having quite a good result. I mean, he's 6th with 18 points, only 15 off the leader, tied up with Prost. So, okay, we only had 2 races so far, but I don't know. It has been very close so far, and we expect this to stay like this until the very end at Korea, but I don't know. Let's hope in the United States we have our first wet sessions, and maybe we can even have more entertaining races there at US.
Well, yes, the US Grand Prix in Austin, that is the next round of the season, in fact, round number 3. And yeah, we're going to go just delve in and have a little bit of a preview.
If you're going to come across the start finish line using DRS into this long pit straight, bring up the gears up to 7th, we're going to be looking right for the 125 meter, which is right there, coming down first gear, clipping the apex right now. Putting the foot on the power as quickly as you can, get a little bit bogged down in second gear, riding the curbs. Now coming to this very similar to Megas and Beckett's type corner, this is the S's in the USA. Down to 4th gear, cutting back into the late apex, drifting down 2 gears in for this left hand, another couple for this right hander here, nailing both of the apexes, virtually flat out through here, getting a little bit of oversteer on the exit, right in that curb there as well. Breaking the 100 meter board down to first gear, missing the apex a little bit, and getting a little bit of oversteer on the exit, so it's going to compromise his run into his very long back straight, going to burn some of his lap time. Going to use some DRS curves. And now up to 7th, so we're looking right, once again 125 meters being your braking point, down to first gear, clipping the apex, accelerating out, up to 3rd gear now, very tricky right hand corner, don't know where your braking meter is and he's proven it, now going to ride the curve, getting a little bit of oversteer, this very tricky left hander, clipping the apex, accelerating out, into 3rd, 4th, into this Nico Rosberg where he got the gust of wind. 6th gear, using all of the road, now down into a couple of gears. Going to go 2nd gear for this left hander, clip the apex, foot on the power, and that's a lap around the USA.
So given the first 2 rounds of the season, the results that we've had, it's going to be quite difficult to preview, because the predictions are just going to be flung out the window, like most likely, because it's just been so. It's been quite unpredictable. One thing we can predict, I guess, is that the Williams should have pretty good pace. Shane and Callum have been very quick, pretty much all season so far. And we can hope that the 2 Ferraris are going to be up there, that Dan will be up there, that Prost and Hammer time will be up there. Brown has been pretty decent as well. The top 8 are basically interchangeable. It's top 7 or however many people I just named then, but something like top 8. Are completely interchangeable the majority of the time. We may see some wet conditions. Obviously, in real life in 2015, we saw monsoon weather for qualifying and a bit of wet action at the start of the race proper as well. We have had a intermediate session already, haven't we, for qualifying in Australia? Even though it didn't show up on the stream, but we'll gloss over that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that strange F1 2013 glitch, but. Yes, it's going to be a track I think that catches people out. We've talked about this before recording actually, that the first sector of the Austin track is so difficult, especially when you've got so many cars out on track. When they're not, when the majority of them are AI cars as well. It's very difficult, that flowing left-right section. So first lap certainly will be pretty tricky, and that uphill hairpin may provide some good overtaking opportunities throughout the whole race. But what are you expecting from the Austin Grand Prix?
Well, I'm expecting maybe not as a close field as we had in Brazil, but definitely a lot more overtaking that we had, because I'm sure we have I hope we can have at least a four-way battle for the win. I think that's quite possible with Dan, Shane, Callum, and maybe Pepper, or maybe Hammerstein or Prost. But I think it will be very interesting to see what happens. Obviously, Dan getting the lead of the championship now. I'm sure he doesn't want to let that go. And Shane and Callum and Pepper and Prost, everyone is targeting Dan and wanting to beat him at US, and due to the nature of the track, I think it's quite possible we can have absolutely amazing fights throughout the race, and even on qualifying, because qualifying again doesn't matter too much, but it always helps not to start in the middle of the field or at the start of a race. So I think it will have a good third round for this season, and hopefully we can have the first race affected by rain, because that would be That would make everything so much fun and so much more interesting.
Well, Pepper, I'm guessing, will be doing a rain dance in the pit lane before the race starts. But it should be a fairly interesting race, to be honest with you. That long back straight should create a lot of overtaking opportunities, and of course the home straight as well. And just the challenging nature of the track should spice things up. And you never know, if the weather does get involved as well, that would be fantastic. You talked about qualifying earlier. I'm guessing that the two Red Bull boys will be hoping to have a much better qualifying attempt this time. It's not been fantastic at either Grand Prix, really, in Australia or certainly in Brazil. And this is a track with the first sector being how it is. You do not want to be in the midfield on the first lap.
No.
I think you'd probably rather just be at the back and just wait and see how it all pans out and then sift your way through the carnage. But being in the midfield is deadly. First going into that hairpin and then going through the left-right section in the first sector, it's not ideal. So everyone will be making sure that they get their one lap pace in order and making sure they get their qualifying session on point. But obviously, it's not going to be that way for everyone. Someone's going to have to start in the midfield, unless there's some sort of miracle. I don't quite see what that miracle would be at this point. But anyway. Preview for America. Then I suppose we've got to do some sort of prediction, I guess, for this Grand Prix. But sort of as we said, it's kind of difficult to predict.
Yeah. However, I got 2 points against Niran's 1.
That is true.
With the results, if you don't remember, Niran predicted Callum win, followed by Hammer Time and myself, Pepper. And Hammer Time got pole, obviously 1 point to Niran thanks to Callum's win. Me, on the other hand, predicted Prost win, followed by Callum and Shane, and pole position for Callum. I got pole position from Callum and third place from Shane, so that's 2 points. I don't know how you guys did, but I'm sure I won against all of you. But yeah, following US. Taking into consideration last year's results, Callum and Dan finished very close to each other. So maybe the win will be between them. Pole position. I will risk with Callum again, to be fair. I think it's a safe choice for me. Which podium? Not that I want to, but I think Callum will win, followed by Shane and Dan. I'll go with that.
I has a pretty safe bet, to be honest with you. I think that's pretty damn safe. So I actually agree with the pole position, because Callum's one lap pace seemed to be pretty good the whole way through the season so far. I know we've only had 2 qualifying sessions, but I reckon Callum will probably take pole. In terms of the win, I'm going to go all out and say Callum's going to win as well. I don't know why. I seem to be a Callum fan apparently, but we'll go with that. I'm going to go all out and say Prost is going to come second, and that we might get a massive flipping 4-way gaggle for third between Shane, Pepper, Brown, and I don't even know, Mazius. How would you even predict it? I'm going to say Pepper. Screw it, Pepper third. Hopefully you won't let me down again this time.
I'm sure he'll try not to.
After Brazil, but I suppose it wasn't his fault. But yeah, anyway, that's going to be my prediction. It's going to be terrible again. Hopefully I could get some points for something. I don't know. But again, if you want to leave your predictions as well for the race in the comments section, we can always see how we compare to you guys as well, and how you compare to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And going from the predictions now to the facts we can present to you about the US Grand Prix on the history of AOR PlayStation 3, starting with the fact number 1. And Season 9 was the only season where there was no British driver on the podium, and by saying this is already impressive. But actually, the first British on that race only finished 8th.
Yeah, if you're not going to finish on the podium, you might as well do it in style. Not even getting close, really. The whole country of Britain that season. 8th position. There must have been some serious issues around the track on that day, but it carries on with the theme, I guess. That it's quite it's not British dominated, but it's certainly a lot of British drivers in AOR generally, not just this league. So it is quite surprising when you don't get a British driver certainly doing well in a race. And you just look at the Xbox side, and it's basically dominated in terms of top 2 in from Britain, and that's clearly been the case in PlayStation history as well. So yeah, very interesting fact, especially given like how drastic it is in season 9, where literally no Briton finished above 8th, which is ridiculous. But yeah, anyway. Moving on then to the next fact, number 2. Sauber and Toro Rosso both have 2 wins at the Circuit of the Americas, with Red Bull and McLaren being the other winners. Yeah, that's quite interesting actually. Sauber, they don't tend to feature in our facts very often. Toro Rosso seem to quite a lot, but yeah, certainly I suppose Dan will be hoping that the Red Bull trend continues, and Hammer Time / Prost will be hoping that the Sauber trend continues, and maybe they can get another win.
Yeah. But obviously we have Williams and Ferrari hoping to get themselves 1 win as well.
Exactly, they'll be hoping for their first win around this circuit, most definitely.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see what really happens. I mean, maybe we can even have like a Mercedes or a Caterham winning. We don't know what's going to happen.
Can you imagine the scenes? That would be astonishing. Well, that's if Beloff gets back from the River Plate Boca Juniors game, but and actually returns. But yeah, hopefully he does. Actually, if you're watching Beloff, come back. But yeah, you never know. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Going to fact number 3. There was only 1 American driver racing at US so far, and that is there was a professional who raced last season and finished 6th. So, like Brazil, the natives from the country don't really seem to drive that well on their own track.
Maybe it's the pressure. Maybe it's the pressure getting to them, the home crowd urging them on, even though you can't hear them over the F1 2013 engines. If it was F1 2015, then maybe. But anyway, yeah, it's an interesting trend that seems to be going on so far. We haven't had. Do we have Australian races in AOR? I seem to remember in this league, yeah. And then obviously native speakers in Brazil, and we haven't had an American, grab a podium yet in America. So I'm sure eventually we'll get to a track where a home driver has done something at some point.
Britain.
Yeah, definitely. Where there's been like 7 winners, like British winners in Britain or something. But yeah, so I'm sure 007 Professional will be hoping for a slightly better race. Although 6th is a pretty decent effort, especially with how competitive the field is. But maybe he'll be hoping to go a few steps further even this time round.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, the next fact then being the championship has been decided 3 times in America in season 6. Season 8 and Season 9. Now that's obviously when America, or the Circuit of the America, was at the end of the season. I'd be slightly worried if the championship was decided at COTA this year, with it being the 3rd round of the season, but it's usually obviously like the penultimate round or the 3rd to last round. So it being decided around there, I suppose, is to be expected in some instances. Obviously, we know we haven't had a championship decided in the final round of the season yet in this league, in terms of, to our knowledge. But hopefully that changes this year. But as I said, this year it's certainly not going to be decided at America, but it does seem to be a track that has held a lot of importance across the league's history so far.
Yeah, and this race can also prove to be a game changer for one driver, maybe. I mean, imagine if a win in Austin means that he starts on a winning streak that leads him to the championship, or the other way around, it just collapses.
Exactly.
So it will be definitely, it's a track, like we said, allows a lot of good racing, and I'm sure everyone wants to give their max, and it can get someone to get in a good momentum throughout for the rest of the season. So it will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nevertheless, going to the fifth fact of this section, only for 2 times the champion has won the US Grand Prix.
That's interesting. So I suppose the omen is that some people won't actually want to win this one, because they're more likely to win the championship if they don't.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sure they'll be going full guns blazing as usual. But yeah, we've had some interesting facts about champions so far, and that's another one. The US Grand Prix seems to be a track that doesn't favour necessarily the fastest driver, just to maybe is the technically best at that track, or whatever. But yeah, I'm sure that won't stop people gunning for the victory this week.
Yeah, not at all.
Anyway, moving on. The highest number of drivers taking part in the USGP was 15 in season 10, which is not a bad effort at all when you consider there was probably a live streamer or a commentator. That's actually a full field, full possible field, and 14 people saw the checkered flag in that race. We're not expecting that many people to be racing this time, but you never know. If we're lucky, we could get sort of 12 or 13.
Yeah.
12's been the average so far. 13, you never know, we could get. If we see a few drivers come back and a few drivers decide they're going to stay on after their races in Brazil. But yeah, 15. That must have been carnage in the first sector. I don't know who.
We was.
Came out. Oh yeah, I can imagine. I don't know who came out on top in that carnage-filled pile-up of a race, most likely. But good to see that only one person didn't finish that race as well.
Yeah, I'll place the footage at the moment of what happened on the first sector. All I remember is me on my Marussia going now to turn 3, I think, and watching like the 2 Ferraris cross ahead of me, like going to Narnia and back, and a few more cars just going wide at turn 2, and it was absolute chaos, and it wasn't even raining.
Well, I tell you what, for those who are sort of on the fence as to whether to watch the race or not this week, maybe that's decided it for you. If you know there's going to be some absolute carnage on lap 1, even though there'll be a few less drivers this time, I'm sure there will be the same level of action, certainly on the first lap, and I would have thought throughout the whole race.
Yeah, I'm sure Shane is hoping otherwise, but
yeah, I can imagine.
Going for the 7th fact, the Ferrari team has never finished higher than 5th on the United, so not to win, not even a podium for the Ferrari team. I'm sure they want to change it this weekend, but nevertheless, it's still very interesting to see something like this happen.
Yeah, the Tifosi won't be looking forward to this Grand Prix, will they, realistically, on current form? But I don't want to tempt fate here. I'm touching wood, as the phrase goes, but I would be quite surprised if that run continues this week, barring any sort of external issues. Based on pace, I would be massively surprised if both of the Ferraris didn't get in the top 5. I would have thought they're more likely to have both Ferraris getting in the top 5 instead of both finishing outside. But obviously, again, it's going to be a difficult race to call, so you never know. But I'm sure the boys in red will be hoping to change that fact this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, moving on to fact number 8. There's been 2 wet races even out of the 6 possible, and this happened in season 5 and in season 6. So it's been quite a long time since we had a rain-affected race at COTA, a full 5 seasons now, which surely means that we're about due. Just a quick shower during the race. So that's how it works, isn't it? Something along the lines of. It's been a while, so it's got to come around at some point. Yeah. So there was a stage where both of the races that we'd had at COTA had been wet, that we have on record. But obviously it's been quite some time. You never know. We might get a bit of dampness, a bit of moisture falling from the sky at some point during the race weekend this time though.
Yeah, that would be nice to mess up strategies and drivers and cars and everything.
We all love a bit of wet weather. We all love a bit of wet weather. The drivers maybe not so much, but we love to see it, like watching it. So, yeah, let's hope there's a bit.
Yeah. Going to fact number 9. Britain is the country with most wins.
What a surprise, sorry.
With 3, followed by Germany with 2, and Spain with 1.
Do we have one German driver? That's Brown, isn't it? We don't have any Spanish drivers.
Brown is Italian.
Brown's Italian?
Yeah.
For goodness sake, I had that in my mind earlier. I don't know why I thought he was German. Do we have any German drivers then?
No.
Okay, brilliant. So that tally can only extend for Britain then, unless obviously another nationality wins.
Well, I doubt Sevalisa for Spain can pull it off.
Yeah. Well, you never know. You
True.
never know. We've got to keep an open mind about this one. He's off the back of a decent debut last time, scoring some solid points. You never know. He might just go all out and decide to win the race this time. But
That would be impressive.
I would be very impressed if that happened. But I think we're looking at a British win more likely than anything else. But again, all the other nationalities will be hoping to ruin the party on that one, because I get the feeling the Brits we've had a bit too much airtime.
Yeah.
As far as this championship's been concerned, a bit too dominant every now and again. So yeah, it would be nice to see another nationality doing the job. But anyway, moving on then to the final fact. And the closest qualifying session ever at this track was back in season 10 last time. And well, the top 4, to get ready, this is insanity. This is absolute insanity. The top 4 were separated by 0.028 seconds. In layman's terms, that's 3/100ths of a second across 4 drivers. That is absolutely insane. If we and you know, a COTA is a pretty long lap as well. That's not like being covered by 300ths of a second at Montreal or at Monaco. COTA's a decently long lap.
Yeah.
In comparison. So that's really just insane. If we get something as close as that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think when I saw this, right, it was quite funny because on the qualifying it was like in consecutive order. So someone posted a pole lap, like 3 seconds later there was a new pole lap. 3 seconds later there was another pole lap. And finally, Iceman wrecked the competition with the final lap, only 14 thousandths ahead of the second. And
that makes it even better, because that means that the next 3 were then covered by 14 thousandths as well, which is just that's just stupidly small gaps. I'd love to see that this time.
yeah, maybe you can get somehow a bit more cars separated by 30 thousandths, but.
Jesus.
That would be
like 8 cars separated by that. Can you imagine? Jesus.
Well, can you imagine like 12 cars separated by 12,000? That would be ridiculous.
I don't think that's even possible. I actually, Jesus.
Well,
oh my word.
It's extremely difficult, but
I'm sure it's possible somewhere. Anyway, I think we're getting sidetracked here.
Yeah.
That would be sick. Well, let's not get away from that. That would be absolutely. I wonder what that would actually look like. Like 12 cars crossing the line, covered by 12,000. They'd each be separated by like 3mm or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Madness. Anyway, that's the end of the science section. The off-topic section. Anyway, yeah, but that's I suppose the end then for the facts. Definitely leaving the best one till last. And but we'll be hoping that some of those facts maybe could be discarded after the race this weekend. We see some groundbreaking activities, and certainly a qualifying session as close as the one that we saw in fact number 10. But I guess that is pretty much the end of this episode of the AOR Talk Show, unless there's anything you would like to add, Pepper.
Well, not really. Just would like to thank for all of you that have been following this talk show. Obviously, if you haven't noticed, and I would be very glad if you didn't, but I'm a bit with a struggle talking sometimes, but nevertheless, I think it's important to keep going, and I know you guys like this, so we always do a bit of an effort, isn't it, Niran? So it has been a pleasure to be here. Obviously, if you didn't see either the Australian race or the Brazilian, go check out on James' channel. And be sure you could to his channel this Sunday at 8 p.m. UK time to watch what hopefully will be a great United States Grand Prix. But for me, that's all for this week. Niran, you want to say anything else?
Yes. If Pepper managing to struggle through like a 40-minute recording isn't enough to get a like, then I don't know what is. So make sure you slap a like on this video. Leave your predictions as well in the comment section for the Austin Grand Prix. And as Pepper said, don't forget to check out the race itself at 8 o'clock this Saturday?
Sunday.
No, Sunday. I'm trying not to confuse you all. 8 p.m. on Sunday, and it should be a very entertaining and interesting race. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for the support on this series. It's very motivating to keep going because there's a lot of effort that goes into something like that, something like this even. So thank you guys ever so much for that. But it's been a pleasure ranting to you guys today from me, and it's been a pleasure, I'm sure, from Pepper as well. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next week.